Mr. Juan Fernando Lugris is a Uruguayan diplomat specializing in multilateral negotiations related to the environment, human rights, trade, and regional integration, and currently serves as Uruguay's ambassador to China and Mongolia. He is well known as an art lover with an appreciation for Chinese art, and over the years he's been moved by many Chinese films. What are his most cherished memories from his years as a diplomat in China? As the pandemic continues to ravage the globe, how does he rate the epidemic response of China and her government? Welcome to this installment of Face to Face. All right, so thank you very much for taking the time to receive our interview today, Ambassador.
I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Okay, so we just had a look around here at the embassy. It's really quite beautiful. And I noticed that from the pieces displayed, you clearly have a very great taste in art, and you've experienced China in great depth. So can I ask you, which movies or which cinematic works have left a deep impression on you?
Well, actually, I have to say that I try to follow all the blockbusters of Chinese cinema, and I try to keep informed on what's going on in the Chinese movie industry. There are many movies that attract me. Before coming to China, there were some very important and celebrated movies of Chinese directors that got the attention of the whole world, and of course I watched them all. But since I am here, I've been touched by many Chinese movies. If I have to name one, I would say that Youth was a movie that really touched my heart. It shows not only some turbulent times in recent history here in China being presented in a very beautiful manner through the life of artists, but also their evolution until today. And the movie ends up in Hainan with this free trade port nowadays. So I think it's a great artistic reflection of the last years of constant change in the Chinese society with an incredible beauty. So that would be my choice.
Okay, I think it's an excellent choice. And of course, as a diplomat with quite a decent amount of time here in China, you've seen some changes yourself. And so what moments during your time here do you think are most deeply impressed in your memory?
Well, so many important moments in Chinese history that have also called the attention of the whole world. But I think the parade, the big parade that we had here.
Is this the military parade?
The military parade was very impressive. It was very beautiful to be part of that. I think we have all seen them on TV from previous decades, but to have the honor to be part of such a huge celebration of this nation was quite impressive. And then we have seen a lot of concepts becoming reality, like the Belt and Road. Before coming to China 6 or 7 years ago, we were trying to understand what that meant to the world and to China. But when we are here, we attend the big summits and we listen to the leaders speaking clearly on those concepts, and then we see railways moving to Europe on daily basis, and we see huge ports, and I mean everything makes more sense. So I think to see the materialization of a lot of important concepts in reality, I think this is also something very impressive. And I would say that there are other concepts in China, like the Greater Bay Area project, that it sounds like a big project, but once we see the bridge between Hong Kong, Macau, Zhuhai, it's more than a project. It's a reality in many ways. So there are many things during these 6 years that have been very interesting for me, especially to put a real image to a concept that I had from before. And I think that is something that in China is quite easy to happen, because there are many concepts that are becoming realities on daily basis, and there are so many changes ongoing that this is fascinating and keeps us very busy.
Yeah, in terms of the whole society moving forward, impressive is the right word. I think you chose that very well.
And constant change and diversity, all those elements are are part of the Chinese reality nowadays.
That's true. What about your normal daily life? Is there anything particular that you really enjoy about living in Beijing? Maybe the food or the way that people talk or something like this?
Well, I love Chinese food, and I love the diversity of Chinese food, and this fantastic opportunity that we have to move from Sichuan to Yunnan food and one day to the other. And you know, every night we can say, what are we going to have? And well, let's go for this food or the other. I think this is great because it shows the complexity and the diversity of the country reflected in this immense, diverse cuisine. Then I love the city. I have to say that I'm truly a Beijinger who loves Beijing, and I love the temples, and I love the old hutons. So to walk around and to discover a new temple or a new little street keeps me also very inspired. So, and I really like the life in Beijing, even though we are extremely busy, because all our countries have very intensive agendas with China, and this is also very interesting and enthusiastic, but it's also a part of the life here.
Yeah, that's right. And I understand that you're the head of an association, which is the Latin American diplomats here in China. Another job as well as your own to keep you very busy there.
Well, this is the Latin American and Caribbean group of ambassadors that we work together at the UN level, and in every single capital we get organized. So I have the honor to be nowadays the dean of the Latin American and Caribbean group of ambassadors, and that's an extra job, but it's a very pleasant one because we are representing also a vast, diverse, immense region full of creativity and diversity and natural richness. So it's truly an honor also from the perspective of Uruguay to be able to work on the integration of the whole Latin American and Caribbean continent and to present it better to our Chinese friends.
You've been here in China witnessing the entire development and the control of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. So of course we understand that vaccines and economic recovery are the central pillars of the global effort that continues against COVID-19. And aside from China's own domestic anti-epidemic measures, we've seen that this country has been providing vaccines to numerous other countries. And for example, your president, so he was inoculated using China's Sinovac COVID vaccine. And recently you visited Wuhan. You've been to Wuhan quite a few times before. And you may have noticed that the city has also changed a lot over those years. Wuhan has been very impressive in 2020 and 2021, fighting against the critical threat of the COVID-19 virus. And they achieved victory against this at the local level. So what do you think are the elements of Wuhan's and China's experience that could be applied to other countries and regions who are still pushing to achieve victory?
Well, several comments. It has been quite an impressive moment in history to go through the entire pandemic cycle here in China. And I have to reflect that at the beginning, when the outbreak took place in Wuhan, there were so many question marks and many doubts. And of course, Uruguay was one of the first countries that showed its solidarity towards the Wuhan people. We sent some little but important donations to support the fight in Wuhan. This embassy was one of the first ones to have a fantastic sign out of the embassy saying Wuhan Chayo. We were trying to be close to the people who were really facing a very difficult moment in Wuhan city. We also had some students, Uruguayan students who were part of the lockdown in Wuhan and who were treated incredibly well by the authorities in Wuhan. They could leave the country in one of the first flights, thanks to the cooperation of the French government, I should say. But one of the first elements that I would like to underline is that nowadays here in China, we can start talking from a historical perspective, because in most of the provinces, we are facing 0 cases for many, many, many days, sometimes months, and I've been to regions and provinces in China where they have been experiencing 0 cases for more than 200 days. So COVID-19, in a way, it's history in some parts of China. Reflections for the rest of the world, I think we can get a lot. But I think the first one that I think it was important was the value of science. An outbreak could happen in any part of the world at any moment. And I think it was important that China put science immediately to try to understand what was that, and then it shared the information to the rest of the world. The second element, I think, is a very disciplined population that could react according to what the science and the government instructed them to do without hesitating, because they understood that they were working on a public health issue, and everybody had to contribute to that. And I think all that is also related to experience. In China, due to previous outbreaks, I mean, there was an experience, and in Hong Kong and Guangdong, the SARS was really, really central. For the rest of the world, SARS was something that took place in Eastern Asia, but many people in Uruguay didn't really have memories of the SARS outbreak. So I think having that in mind helped many people in China also to understand that to wear a mask is essential. It's the number one thing you have to do in order to protect others, even when you get a flu. But that was a concept that for the rest of the world, people had to explain, and scientific committees had to develop papers to convince people that that was an important measure to be taken. So I think this experience that China had, this clear access to scientific information, and the discipline of people in obeying what the science plus the government is telling people to do are remarkable things.
Fair enough. May I ask, so of course there are a lot of lessons that can be learned. Do you feel that Uruguay has learned some of those lessons and improved its response over this time since?
I think so. I think the government took a very smart decision to establish a scientific committee in order to get scientific information on first hand. So the government has been applying a lot of measures based on what the scientists are saying. And I really hope that this is a lesson learned, because I think even in normal circumstances, it would be important to have the science closer to the political decision-making process. So I think that should be one asset for the future, to try to listen more to scientists. And some beautiful consequences is like we are getting more and more people studying science and studying biology, studying medicine, because I think also to understand how important it is to have people in labs understanding viruses, protecting human health worldwide, has motivated more people also in Uruguay to study sciences. And this is a good thing. There are other good things like e-commerce, and then online education and Zoom fever. So I think those are some of the elements that we're going to get a lot of lessons learned, and hopefully positive ones.
This year marks the centenary of the Communist Party of China, just as its Uruguayan counterpart also celebrates 100 years of history. Let's hear what special wishes the ambassador has for the CPC. What are his expectations for the Beijing Winter Olympics to be held in February next year? In which areas will future cooperation between China and Uruguay be concentrated? Face to Face continues.
I think what you said is correct, that the place of science in our society and in our discourse has become more important, and people realize that. Yeah, so that's a positive outcome from all of this. Yeah. Okay, so during the recent trip to Wuhan, you made some visits. One was to the 1911 Revolution Memorial Hall, and also to the site of the August 7 conference. So these are very important historical sites, of course. You saw up close the amazing achievements of the Communist Party of China over its 100 years of existence. And I would like to ask you to offer a message of congratulations and best wishes. And also, could you discuss your views on the CPC and its 100 years of history?
I think this is a very special year for China, and it's a great opportunity for Chinese people to reflect on China's historical path. And I think it's a privilege for a foreign diplomat to be here and to listen to all these celebrations and all these reflections. And I think it's a great invitation for Chinese people to reflect on their own historical decision to move towards a new system. And you know, foreign diplomats, we are trying to understand better China's history, which is immense because it's very vast, and we have to understand dynasty to dynasties, and sometimes it's really complex. And recent history is also complicated. And the very recent visit of the Latin American and Caribbean group to Wuhan offered us this fantastic opportunity to see some of the historical places where first the Republic of China and then the People's Republic of China was created and elevated to a new level. And I think through those visits we can understand also better the complexity of those historical moments that really marked not only China's history but the world history. And I think this 100 years of transformations in China have been extremely dynamic, extremely fruitful in many ways, but they have been a dramatic change for the world. And this is something that we need to understand. So yes, congratulations to the Chinese people on their own decisions to change their own history, and of course the most important thing is to remain very close to those political processes to see how they would continue to evolve in the future, because at this moment there is a clear strategic partnership between Latin America, the Caribbean and China, and between Uruguay and China. Our economies are extremely complementary. China is our first trading partner, so we need to follow what China is doing and what are the changes in China's system in order to understand better and to be a better partner for the future.
Okay, and what would you like to see in China's future? What do you think is the next step?
Oh, I think transformations are ongoing, and I really hope that China could continue to keep this path of dynamic transformations. And I think there are three pillars that are fundamentally important for the sustainable development of China that I would like to see the three of them equally moving fast. One is the economical development, that I think there's no doubt out there that China will continue to grow economically in a new way, with new technologies, with new transformations. So I really hope that this pillar will continue to evolve. But next to that pillar, I think the social development has been amazing in the last 100 years in this country, and the poverty eradication and the elevation of the middle classes. And I sincerely hope that this trend will continue and will continue to evolve in the same way, because that offers a lot of new opportunities to people, more access to culture, to sports, to different goods and services. So I think this is a very important pillar. And the third pillar that is absolutely fundamental is the environmental protection one. So if we are able to see that China continues to evolve in the three pillars at, let's say, at the same time, and I think it would be very good news, not only for Chinese people, but it would be very good news to the world. Because every time China expresses its willingness and commitment to fight climate change, to protect biodiversity, to work on environmental issues, it has an immense impact in the globe. And all those issues are of global concern, it affects us all. So it is important to see that the society continues to grow economically, evolves socially, and protects its environment. And that makes sustainable development a reality. And it's very important that the most populated country in the world continues to grow in a sustainable manner.
There's another very important national event going to happen in China next year. It's also very important for the world, of course, which is the Beijing Winter Olympics. So I would like to know, how are the Uruguayan national team preparations coming along, and what goals do they have their sights set on?
Well, I have to be very, very honest. Uruguay doesn't get any snow, so we are not strong in winter sports, but we are a very good friend of China, and we think this is going to be a very important event. So our goal is a very modest one. We would love to participate. And we're trying to find out Uruguayan sportmen and women who are Uruguayan, but who are practicing winter sports in other places in the world, because Uruguay doesn't have any winter sport area. And of course, we do have Uruguayans doing winter sports in Chile, in Argentina, in Europe, in the US, and other places. So at this moment, our Ministry of Sports, that depends directly from the Presidency of the Republic, is trying to identify some sportmen and women that could come and be part of this celebration. And I think this celebration is going to be quite an important one because we all hope that this Olympic Games would also mark a post-pandemic, the beginning of post-pandemic world. So let's hope that things are going to happen, that the vaccination campaigns worldwide will advance in a positive manner, and that we could have those celebrations of the Olympics, the one in Japan and the one in China. I think that would give us a lot of hope as humankind that that we can really have a victory on this virus.
So do you have any suggestions for the organization or delivery of the Games next year in Beijing? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think Beijing has an extraordinary experience in hosting big events, among them another Olympic that was very successful. So I think this is a unique city that could host Summer Olympic Games and Winter Olympic Games. And I don't think I have many suggestions to them, but I would like to add some words on what you just said. And the president of Uruguay has been very instrumental in supporting the Confederation of Football in South America to get Chinese vaccines in order to prepare our big events in Latin America in terms of soccer, which are the most popular ones in the continent, and to have them in a safe manner. So Sinovac is going to be a very special sponsor and partner of the America's Cups this year and all the tournaments that we're going to have in Latin America in order to ensure that our people can be back in stadiums and our teams can play in a safe manner. So it is difficult to have those big events during still the pandemic. But let's hope that the Winter Olympics are going to be the beginning of the post-pandemic and that we can be very safe in Beijing. I'm sure preparations are going to be brilliant because we are very used to see fantastic big events and global events being very well organized here in China.
Okay, so despite the fact that we're on opposite sides of the globe, China and Uruguay are very, very closely connected. And during your 6 years posted here, the two nations have covered a lot of ground in terms of political, economic, cultural, and interpersonal engagement. So as ambassador, you have worked very, very hard to continue the advancement of trade relations, even as the pandemic has been unfolding. So in your opinion, what do you think would be the main focal points of a bilateral cooperation between China and Uruguay over the next 5 years?
Thank you very much for that question. Our strategic partnership is arriving to a mature state, and this is very encouraging. I personally believe that we are ready to move forward into a more elevated status of our strategic partnership and to have very strategic cooperation in a more sophisticated manner. And that means that we need more educational cooperation, we need more planning of our strategic partnership, we need more scientific centers to do research together. We need more deep cultural exchanges and cooperation. And of course, we need a more sophisticated economical cooperation. So all the different aspects of our relationship are mature enough to be elevated to a new level and in a comprehensive strategic partnership. And that's why we think that a visit of our President Lacalle Pou to China would be instrumental in order to push on this idea. And we are working hard on that. Our President is ready to come, as well as our Minister of Foreign Affairs. And we really hope that we can recover our connectivity and that we can have a safer moment in order to allow those visits to happen, because they're going to be very important to push on the vision of President Lacalle and Minister Bustillo on the bilateral relation with China, which is absolutely strategic due to the fact that our economies are so complementary and so integrated at this moment.
Okay, then I just follow up. And is there any particular field or particular industry that you feel has the potential for dramatic growth between China and Uruguay?
Yeah, we see a lot of opportunities in many sectors, but let me give you an example. When I came here, our exports of beef to China were growing. Now they have exploded, and we are exporting.
It's good. So
it's really good, and we're exporting more than 60% of our total beef to China. Another example of a sector that has been extremely successful recently is the forestry one. We are seeing a very important growth in the last years. So those are some of the key sectors of Uruguayan agriculture, and I truly believe that we have a lot of space to grow. But also Uruguay is a country of services, and we are the #1 exporters of software per capita in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have a lot of brilliant startups. Some of them are already in Shenzhen, and they're doing very good cooperation with some friends in China, but this is really the beginning. 75% of the software produced in Uruguay goes to the US, probably because we are in the same continent, because we speak English easily or more than Chinese Mandarin, but I truly believe that this is a sector that has to have more contacts with China, and that young, brilliant people on both parts of the globe should cooperate more and bring new ideas together. And I really hope that it's not only about agricultural sectors where the complementarity is obvious, but it's also about creative people doing things together. And I think for that we have an immense space for cooperation in the future.